Hello and welcome to this REBA On Demand video, part of the REBA Innovation Series. I'm Debi O'Donovan, Director and Co-founder of REBA. And today we're going to be talking about rethinking reward and benefits. I'm joined by Andrew Baillie, Head of Total Reward at the retailer Ocado. Although it'd be interesting to find out whether they can still call themselves a retailer these days, being so digitally led. And we're going to discuss how tech-first thinking will play out for reward and benefits and explore the opportunities provided by the pandemic, in fact, to think more innovatively and creatively around how employers invest in their people. So I'd like to come across to you, Andrew, and really delve more into that tech-first thinking, the rise of automation, which would be absolutely rife, I'm sure, at Ocado, and think about what this could bring to the employee experience of working. Perhaps we've seen it already, or even in the coming years and months, how that is going to change with that shift.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Debbie. So I think it's an interesting one for Ocado because the last few years, actually, we've gone through quite a bit of transformation, and Ocado, very much in the UK market, is viewed as the online retailer. But actually, over the last few years, we've realised that we have a product that we can sell and market across the world with some of the big household names now utilising our product. And so actually, with that change, we would talk about ourselves and present ourselves as a technology firm first that's delivering within the retail space. And I think that tech first mindset has probably grown a lot over the years at Ocado, where it probably started out as a focus on retail and how we deliver, and then it's moved on to actually how can technology really help us advance and move things forward. And we feel that we're revolutionising the way that the retail market operates. And what the difference for us and for our employees versus some of the other retailers and how they operate is the use of automation is vast within Ocado, and we continue to invest and explore those opportunities. So if you haven't seen on YouTube, you can look at how our robots work within the grid, picking, shopping and delivering it to a picker who then puts it in the bag. And if we talk about the change in experience, over the years that has changed dramatically as to what people will turn up and do at work, to now the point that people are working hand in hand in the retail sector with robots. And we will continue to explore that opportunity and how we can improve things within our network through recent acquisitions with robotic arms, and how they might pick. The simplest thing for a can of beans for us is quite difficult. And actually that comes down to how robots recognise, automate and pick. For our employees, you can imagine that is an interesting challenge and change, because they experience the robots being developed and being brought in to do the jobs that they're doing today. So for our employees, it can be quite unsettling. However, you have to be brought into the kind of the overall Ocado journey on innovation, and actually we continue to evolve, jobs change, we're constantly thinking about how we can give people new avenues to explore, how they can grow and develop, and our products grow and develop. So for anyone that's based in London, they will have seen Ocado Zoom, which is the delivery service within an hour. And now we're having employees that are delivering on electric bikes. So again, a different avenue, different use of technology, but again, something for us to explore. And that's all coming for our kind of drive to really embrace technology and think about how it can improve ultimately the experience and the product that we are delivering. So we've seen a lot of change in the last couple of years, and we'll continue to see change in the coming years as well.
So are you finding, Andrew, that you're having to recruit for different skills now, or are you recruiting similar kinds of people as before, but you're taking on the training and development at Ocado? How does that work to adapt to these massive shifts?
So I think it's changed in that we're broadening the amount of coders that we'll need, but also where they are being located and looking at where the next tech hub might be, trying to obviously think about avoiding the costs of the Bay Area. But it's a very interesting one, especially the impact the pandemic has had, and some of the big headline grabbers from CEOs saying that they'll pay where someone lives versus where they work, and the implications of that. So from a tech perspective and the people that we are looking for, absolutely that has changed the requirement of the volume recruitment that we used to see, which would have been very much in the retail space. However, in the retail space in the UK, we're having to ensure that people really understand now the role that they're getting into and what that means. So from driving routes, how that's planned, what that means, how they interact from a customer point of view, that continues to evolve as more and more technology kind of comes into their job. So it's definitely changed, but that's reflective probably more of the shape and focus of the business and what we want to be doing and bringing to the market.
So from a broader HR perspective, is that allowing your HR team and the strategy that's been put in place to perhaps be a bit more creative, a bit different to a few years ago?
I would say absolutely. It's quite liberating. I think there is a need to be innovative and fresh and really thinking about that employee experience first and foremost, and what that means for coming to Ocado. And also as you're sort of moving into new markets. So for us, as we expand into Japan, so culturally different from Hatfield in Hertfordshire, and how we approach that is really challenging. And what that has meant is a shift in mindset as to how we might approach that from an HR perspective for the full remit, right? Not just from a reward and benefit point of view, but really about how we help train people, how they can be successful in that environment. So from a strategic point of view, it absolutely requires us to be thinking ahead and keeping pace with the business and the requirements, and ultimately the different characteristics that are now coming into the organization as we upweight more in the technology capability space.
Yeah, that global view is quite interesting. I've spoken to a few employers recently, and everybody's moved very much away from imposing the central HQ view on the rest of the world, but talking more and more how pushback from other countries is changing thinking, perhaps here in the UK or global thinking. So it's a much more, universal melting pot of what's feeding in. And are you seeing that some of your practices, perhaps here in the UK, are even shifting because of what you're learning from other countries?
So in the immediate term, nothing's shifted, but I really recognise the point you make around the challenge that we are facing. And in part, that might be because we are a maturing organisation and we're going into new markets. So we might be experiencing things that some of the big players have been doing for years. But one thing that we are focused on is around what Ocado means as an organisation, because as we go into these new markets, we have no brand identity. We're also a partner to another organisation. So we are not, Ocado is known in the UK because we are a retailer in the UK, or now a partnership with M&S. In another country, it's very different because we're going in to work with Kroger in the US. So Kroger, a household name. If you went and asked people, do they know Ocado? They have no clue. And trying to recruit, trying to reward people where there isn't that identity is actually, we really have to stand back and think about what it means to come and work at Ocado and the experience that we want to create. And that has thrown up those challenges that you're referencing about, we don't want to be saying, here's how it feels in Hatfield and Hertfordshire, and that's not how it's going to feel in the US. But we want to make sure that there's an overall an overall culture, experience, whatever you might want to call it, that people can associate to within each of the countries, but also recognising the differences that exist. So it's a really interesting challenge. The point that you make on the global melting pot, I think, in the side of our business, which is around the coding and development side, the doors are really sort of being thrown open as to where you might recruit talent. If you believe the headlines of organizations saying work where you want, from a comp point of view, that is a very interesting proposition, and it will be interesting to see the impacts that has if it starts to create more of a global view on what we should pay, or if we are still ultimately influenced by where we live, the costs that we incur, and the support that we expect from our employers. So I think the changes from the pandemic, the focus on technology that we've really seen the benefits from. I think the next few years it's going to be an interesting watch as to what effects might happen.
Absolutely. I think you and I spoke about that last year, about this is probably going to be the biggest shift, seismic change in reward for years. This idea of where do we pay people, and I know almost every employer I'm speaking to at the moment is watching that, but nobody quite wants to be the first mover.
Yeah.
Although I know some of the big US tech firms have been a bit braver about that, so definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
I want to come back now and talk about, for our last question, looking more specifically at employee benefits and linking it back to this digital first, tech first, far more people working from home or working wherever they are. Is that changing the kind of benefits you think that employers might offer staff? Are they different benefits that would appeal to staff who aren't always office-based? What kind of shifts are you seeing, either office-based staff or workplace frontline staff or working from home? What's coming down the line?
Certainly, I think your last point is an interesting one, because things have absolutely changed, but actually you still have frontline staff that are location-based, and while their needs will have changed a bit, it's perhaps not as dramatic as those that have been stuck in a room for the last 12 months or in a different country, which is the case for some people where they've just not been able to get back. And I think that the frontline or location-based staff, I think the shifts that we've seen in the benefits space has been more around well-being. Okay, well-being has come to the fore like you could have never have imagined. And I think it will continue to have a prominence in what organisations think about, because there is going to be a lasting effect. And as was described by Boris, the rain shadow that we will see of this pandemic, I think it's not something that we just step out of and everything is fine again. I think mental and physical well-being is going to continue to be a very important part of what organisations think and provide for employees. For all employees, location based or not, in that space, I think more now than ever, the need for personal choice to access specific services, I think we will see a rise of that. I've seen it really in the last couple of years, the ability to personalise your PMI or bolt-on products has started to come through more and more. And I think that's brilliant, because we expect it as consumers when we're in the open market to have that, something that's customised and specific to us and meet our needs. And I think the benefits world has really caught up on that in the last few years. And I think we'll continue to see that acceleration. I think the ways of working in terms of people now being more home-based will undoubtedly change the products that employers provide today versus what they'll provide tomorrow. In fact, even within the pandemic, we've seen that change, where the rise of online gym classes is huge. Flexibility of that is far greater than what it was before. Again, pre-pandemic, and what people were seeing as it was a product that was there, but wasn't really being heavily utilised, and I think that's absolutely changed. And also the number of products available in that space has grown dramatically. And I think it will continue to change as to what employees want. I will be honest, is that I think we will only really now start to understand what people will want as people move back to a working week that might be split between home and office. So the last year has been very different as to how to support people. Some organisations have been brilliant, got on the front foot and offered some amazing things. But I think now it will really start to challenge us as to what is it that employees want. I've always been a big believer that this has to come down to personal choice. I think the traditional approach of the employer knows best and I'll give you a suite of benefits to choose from is probably something that should be consigned to the past, because our own consumer experience through digital and automation and AI, all of those elements have made our lives a lot easier in choosing the things that are right for us. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly the same in the benefit space, that now as our employees expect to have that same personalised experience that means something to them. I think the kind of final point that where we'll see more challenges around those benefits, purpose-led benefits in the D&I space, or benefits that align particularly well to your company purpose. So if you're in the green energy space, you're going to over-index in those benefits. I think organisations will have to stand back and think if that's still what they want to lead with, or if it's going to be something different. But I think now's the time to be engaging with employees over the next few months as hopefully some normality returns and to explore what people are really looking for. But I do think that there will be change. I think we need to change because the way we work has changed.
I couldn't agree with you more, Andrew. And thank you so much for giving your time to share your insights, your knowledge, and what you're experiencing at Ocado, that sort of the wider reward and benefits community can benefit and think about some of these issues that are so key right now. And thank you very much for taking part in our very first innovation series as part of REBA's on-demand videos.
No problem. Thanks, Debbie.